What if Deku was in the UA support course, part 3? Now, where I left this what if off, Izuku was thinking how could his perfect cube have failed? Maybe it's not so perfect after all. He starts tinkering with it and finds a major flaw. It only works on people that are basically not very strong. So it only works on common thugs. It won't work on somebody like, let's say, if he tested it out on the top 10 hero, it wouldn't work on them. So Izuku starts to think. He starts to tinker with it until he gets out a higher quality type of metal. He starts to integrate this metal as he combines it and makes a stronger type of metal that he just decided to make, as he makes a perfect cube out of this metal. As he looks into the cube, as he thinks this could probably work to capture many different things. So Izuku would go back to UA, as he would then basically just be told, like the rest of his class, that the UA Sports Festival is coming up and they each have 2 weeks to train. And Aizawa would then tell Izuku to go to the support course, as he does, as basically Power Loader would then say that 2 weeks to train for the UA Sports Festival, and they also have those 2 weeks to like tinker with builds to try to get investors involved. From there, Izuku would leave UA and start walking home, only to be met with the familiar eyes of one of his classmates, Mei Hatsume. She would start talking about how Izuku's perfect cube invention is so cool, and how she even tried to recreate it, but it didn't quite work, as it instantly explodes in both of their faces. As Izuku then says, "Okay, what are you on about?" As she then says they should work together to create an even powerful type of invention for the UA Sports Festival and for the investors to try and pick up their item. So Izuku agrees to this as they go back to his house, as he shows her his stockpile of metals that he's collected over the years. She instantly starts making something as she reveals her basically copy of what his miniature cubes are to her. Izuku would look at it, open it up, and then see major flaws in the wiring as he'd change it and then point it out to her, basically showing Mei Hatsume how to create these perfect cubes. After that, Izuku would then basically tell her that it's getting late. She goes home, as they end up spending the next 2 weeks training together, while Izuku would train, Mei Hatsume would build stuff and try to make things that would be helpful for Izuku. Nothing quite would have worked, as Izuku having a secret project which he named TRE, as Izuku would go back after the 2 weeks, as he would be called to the principal's office, as Nezu would tell Izuku that although he's in a support course and they usually are allowed to use gadgets, they're only going to allow him to use gadgets that aren't the perfect cube, seeing as the perfect cube is basically an overpowered item, and Izuku just shouldn't be allowed to use it. Izuku says alright, as he goes back to Class 1A, where he starts to prepare. He gets his PE uniform, as he, along with the rest of his class, end up hopping onto a bus as they travel to the UA Sports Arena. As Izuku is told that he has to go to the support course locker room, as he just thinks, alright. As he goes to the support course, to where he then ends up getting changed into his clothing or his PE uniform for the sports festival, as he then prepares his basically secret plan, TRE, which he would reveal later on. After this, Izuku would end up being called out along with the rest of the support course people or classmates, as they would get minor cheers, mostly from the investors and the business people in UA, as Izuku would then hear massive roars as he sees Class 1A come out, to which he would then hear Midnight announce for the UA representative to come to the stand. As he sees Bakugo come up to the stand, as he'd say, "I'm gonna win," Suku just shakes his head and says, "Jesus, Bakugo, you couldn't have been a little nicer about that?" As Suku and everyone else would then basically get in a group waiting for Midnight to tell them what the first event is going to be. Now Midnight would announce that it's going to be a race, as Izuku thinks he could probably just use one for all for this, as Nemri or Midnight would then tell them what they're going to do. They basically are going to all get in a group in a tunnel outside of the arena, and then once the gates open, as Mike yells go, they're all gonna run out and race. Zuku thinks as he ends up getting into the group with everyone else as he sees the doors open, as he instantly powers up to 25% full cow, as he gained that 5% training in those 2 weeks. Now Izuku would instantly start running throughout and dodging basically the minor obstacles until he reached a massive 0-pointer. Izuku would think, "Geez, so I guess I'm lucky I didn't have to face this off in the entrance exam," as Izuku would instantly put most of his power in his legs as he jump up and wind back his fist, punching the 0-pointer right in its head, basically creating a massive crater inside the 0-pointer's head, just like he did in canon, as Izuku would float down and start running again, leaving the other 2 0-pointers to be dealt with, which they would end up being dealt with by Todoroki, who was in a close second, and Bakugo in a close third. Izuku would end up making it to the second event as he sees it's some type of crater thing with ropes. Izuku instantly jumps and grabs one of the ropes as he's dangling over the crater or canyon, as Izuku would then pull himself up as he'd launch himself forward, and he would get on some of the little islands as he'd just start hopping from island to island, getting to the other side. From there, Izuku would then keep on running as Todoroki and Bakugo and Izuku are pretty much neck and neck as they get to a minefield. Izuku puts his hand down as he grabs a mine, being very careful not to make it explode, as he rides back, putting 20% one for all into his arm and chucks it right at Todoroki and Bakugo, as it hits Todoroki's back, making a massive explosion, which basically blinds both Bakugo and Todoroki, which causes them both to turn around and start running the opposite direction. Now Todoroki and Bakugo would be confused, why are people running the wrong way, only to realize they're the people running the wrong way, and where's Izuku, as they instantly hear massive applauses from the crowd, as they then hear over the loudspeakers, and Izuku Midoriya has won first place in the UA Sports Festival race, as they instantly say no, as they instantly turn around and start running, as Bakugo would get second and Todoroki in third. Now after that, they have a quick 15-minute intermission, and I think that's the perfect time to take a quick intermission with an ad break. Intermission is done, all the UA students are called back onto the field as Midnight then announces the second event, the UA Cavalry Battle. She then explains that basically a team of 4, 3 people are going to be the bottom, the horses, while one person, the team captain, is going to be the rider, the person on top, who will be having the point headband. And speaking of point headbands, the first place winner of the race just happens to have a 10 million point headband. So pretty much anyone who gets it will win. As Izuku immediately sees tons of eyes staring at him, as he just laughs and says, "Really? You all think you can get my headband? You all are foolish, really. As Izuku would then be told, along with the rest of the people, that they're going to have to choose their teams and that they have 10 minutes to do so. As Izuku thinks for a moment as he goes to Todoroki to ask him to join his team, but Todoroki easily says no, as Izuku would then go to Bakugo and say, Bakugo, we should be on a team. Think about it. If we're on a team and we keep the headband, we're automatically going to win. It actually is going to be quite easy, really. So we're pretty much the two strongest kids in all of the first years. Should be quite easy. Bakugo would then say, fine, Izuku, I'll join you. As Izuku would then pick up Uchako Uraraka and Mei Hatsume as well. Izuku would say, May, your inventions always explode at the worst time. We probably shouldn't use them. Mei then would say, okay, fine. As Izuku on top, now having 10 million point headband, would just wait for Midnight to yell, go. Once he does yell go, instantly all of the teams start running for Izuku. As Izuku then basically uses his flicks to create massive wind pressures. As Izuku says, alright Mei, this is your time to use those things that basically just hold us in place. Which I don't know their name. As Mei would then basically from her rocket boots, things would come out and just plunge themselves into the ground, locking them in place, as Izuku basically keeps on flicking with 10% power all across each person, basically knocking down each team, forcing them to have to get back up again. Now, this goes on for 30 minutes, as Izuku's team is then announced to be the winners of the cavalry battle. And after that cavalry battle is going to be the 1v1 tournament. Izuku is announced to have to go first against a kid named Shinso. As Izuku would then be stopped by Ojiro, the kid with the tail, as Ojiro would tell him that Shinso has some type of mind control cord and don't answer anything he says. Izuku would say, alright, should actually be quite fun. As Izuku would then walk up onto the stage, as Izuku would then wait for Midnight to yell, go. Now Midnight would say go, as Izuku would then start having insults hurled at him by none other than Shinso. Izuku would then get out a random invention that he made and flick it right at Shinso as it stick right into his neck. As Shinso would say, what the hell is that? As Izuku says, would you like to take a guess? Some type of weird... Only for Shinso to instantly go blank as Izuku says, now walk out of the arena. As Shinso instantly walks out of the arena, as Izuku would then walk up to Shinso and take out the little device in Shinso's neck as he says, what? How am I out of bounds? As Izuku says, I was warned you had mind control quirk. And so I used this little device to reverse the quirk's effects onto you. Isn't that funny? You lost by your own quirk. No, this device doesn't work on people with who majorly trained their quirk. It appears you haven't trained your quirk once. Maybe you should have thought about something like that, really. As Shinso would say, damn it, that stupid monkey told you! As Izuku would then go on to the second round against Todoroki. Now, once they both get into the arena, Todoroki instantly starts saying that he's going to beat Izuku with only his ice, and that he will show his father that only he doesn't need his stupid fire core. As Izuku just laughs, as he says, you really think you can beat me with only your ice quirk? That's truly sad, Todoroki. As Todoroki would then wait until the match begun, and once it did, he'd send a massive iceberg right at Izuku, just like he did against Suro. Izuku would instantly flick the iceberg, smashing it into pieces, as Izuku would walk right to Todoroki, easily flicking all of the icebergs, smashing them, as Todoroki starts to have frostbite around his ice side, as Izuku just says, "Use your fire, Todoroki. It's not his quirk, it's yours. Can he control your flames? I don't think so. You're gonna die if you keep using your ice. You need the fire to get the frostbite out." As Todoroki instantly lights up like a volcano, as Izuku would jump back and say, "There it is. Finally decide to use your fire." As Izuku would launch at Todoroki in full cow, as Izuku would then punch Todoroki right across the cheek, as Todoroki would slam into his ice wall that he put around the arena to protect him from falling out of it. As Todoroki would send a massive tornado of fire barreling towards Izuku, who basically just used the flicks to make the wind pressure force the fire to go right back at Todoroki, who tried to send it back at Izuku, but it proved to not work, as Todoroki was consumed by the fire tornado, as once it dissipated, it showed a knocked out Todoroki, as Izuku is said to be the winner of the second round, as Izuku goes on to the semi-finals against Ida. All of this was happening while Bakugo is waiting in the finals for either Ida or Izuku. Now, Izuku would walk up to the arena as they begin the match. Ida instantly starts running around the arena, trying to confuse Izuku, only to have Izuku instantly know where Ida is, as Izuku grabs Ida's foot and slams him into the ground, as Izuku puts his foot onto Ida's head, as Izuku basically cuts the circulation off of his head, which I'm not sure if that could be fatal or not. I'm just going to say it's not in this universe, as Ida instantly falls unconscious, having lost circulation to the brain and the heart, which I don't think that could kill you. I think it might be able to kill you. I don't know, because I'm an idiot, but you know. As Izuku would then go on to the final round against Bakugo. As Izuku would walk up onto the stage, he said, "I've been saving something for this day." As both Izuku and Bakugo would get there as Midnight yells "go," as Bakugo runs right at Izuku, as Izuku gets out his TRE project and instantly throws many of these tiny little things right at Bakugo, as 3 of them instantly stick into Bakugo's neck, shoulder, and arms. As Bakugo instantly falls to his knees, so he's like, "What the hell is that?" As Bakugo starts to shake, as Izuku just laughs and says, "It's one of my special projects. It's called Tree. They're tiny trees laced with enough poison to knock you out. One of them will only knock you out for around an hour, but if you get stuck with more than 3 of them, you'll be knocked out for at least a day. And it appears you've been stuck with 3 of them. These are only a prototype, but if I make them better, you could probably knock somebody out instantly. You're strong, that's why you haven't been knocked out yet. But it should kick in any moment now." As Bakugo instantly collapses, knocked out, as Izuku is then basically hears cheers and claps all around him, as he is the UA Sports Festival winner, as he gets a gold medal, having been first in every single one of the events. Now, I thank you all for watching this What If. It's really fun to make, and it's actually taken me a little while to make. Usually I do the sports festival in like 5 minutes and some of my other What Ifs, and this took me such a long time. But I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.